Narendra Taneja, India's leading energy expert. Your thoughts here, Narendra, if there's, I mean, we have a deadline that's set for escalate this conflict to include civilian energy and water infrastructure. That's already declared. The time has been assigned. Trump sort of like his press conference last night made it pretty clear while deadlines have been moved before, this is a kind of final one. Ultimately, that's the deadline. Do you identify to see anything in the negotiation pathway? Is India involved in anything that will avert, that provides an off ramp so that we don't hit that deadline and move through it? When we've seen the Americans and the Israelis already willing to go way beyond military targets. Many universities have been struck, many medical facilities have been hit. So the idea of moving to civilian infrastructure doesn't seem to be a big step for for those prosecuting the war. What's your expectation today?
Well, you see, it's very clear the US is trapped. I wouldn't say the same about Israel, but the US is trapped, and President Trump himself probably wants to get out of it. And however, it appears that he's under tremendous pressure from Israel and also for most of the countries in the Gulf not to do so, to stay on, to take it to some conclusion. Because if there is any kind of peace deal or a ceasefire at this stage, uh, there are talks going on, but those involved in negotiations are not the very high level people. Though, J.D. Vance is in Hungary, so it's a sign probably if needed, he can just fly to Pakistan or Dubai or any other place. So that seems to be a sign. However, my sense is that, the US is under tremendous pressure from the Gulf kingdoms, not to quote unquote, the language I've heard is surrender because if you leave Iran in the present situation, that means Iran is going to be much stronger than Iran has ever been in the last 50 years. And that would mean that, in coming years, more problems for the Gulf kingdoms, for Israel, and for other Western interests. So really, one thing is very clear, the Americans in particular, that goes for some Western countries too, but America, they don't understand civilizational societies, like Iran or China or Russia or India, and there are a few others. They don't understand them. So I think they're over, the primary analysis was wrong, and they are realizing it now. So now they want to get out of it, at least the US, and declare the victory and go. But in that scenario, American interest in the region would get heavily compromised. They know it, and I think that's probably what analysts and probably the army is telling them. However, it's a very, very, very tough decision for President Trump to take. Very tough, because if they go full hog for a war, that means Middle East would never be the same again. Never. Israel also would never be the same again. And that would mean that.
Do you take the Iranian threat to retaliate against the equivalent water and power infrastructure on this side of the Gulf, their willingness to do that? I mean, they've demonstrated the strike on Ras Laffan, I think, most profoundly, that they're willing to go to that level if indeed the Americans and the Israelis do so.
But I think the difference is America and Israel, they are fighting because they have a certain agenda and they want to win the war. For Iran, it's about their existence. It's an ancient civilization, very old society, very proud people. For them, it's existence. So when you are pushed against the wall, you have no other option. So I think if they are hit tonight, by American Israelis, all those installation like power plants and water plants and so on and so forth, they're going to retaliate very, very hard. And even if that means death to them, I think they're Shia society. We all know the history of Shias, what death means to them. They celebrate this martyrdom for the religion, for the country. I think we got to understand. So this is the situation is totally different. And they're going to hit back, no doubt about. I don't think they're going to worry about the consequences. For them, it's existence. So in such a scenario, I think the entire area, as I said, that even if, for instance, there is a truce or anything, ceasefire, the Middle East is never going to be the same again. But even if there is a ceasefire, 40 days, 45 days, ceasefire would mean basically victory for Iran. And Iran would emerge as a very powerful player in that region for forever. So I think so all those things are there on the table. And those involved in the negotiations have deep links with China. And that makes America very suspicious of the whole plan. And Iran, as it is known as kind of economic colony of China. So it's not easy for the US and Israelis to reach to any safe conclusion. But my worry is that if it is a full-blown war, which looks more likely today, on the scale of 1 to 10, it looks like 6 probably that scenario, and 4 probably some kind of truth, maybe not a ceasefire, but something happens so that the guns go silent for the time being. To me, appears to be kind of like that. But as I said, it's very difficult to predict President Trump. It appears, but President Trump, my sense is that I watched his press conference last night very carefully. He wants to get out of it. It's so visible, so easy to see that he is frustrated. Look at the kind of language he's using for Iranians. I mean, in civilization country like India, we just, even the most illiterate people would never use such a language, which President of America is using. And he's using language for Iranians. Iranians are very sensitive to language. It's one of the richest languages in the world, the Persian. So I think it's frustration. When you're so frustrated as he is, very often your decisions can be not the decision which are in your best interest.
Narendra, just picking up there on Sarah's comment, and also uh, I would say on the notable things that are missing here, big country like India, silent, absent. Big country like China, nearly silent, but not quite as they've sort of spoken with Pakistan. Security Council seems practically silent, but there might be some activity there today. Where are the big players? I mean, as Trump said himself, he doesn't take any oil out of the Straits of Hormuz. India does, clearly. China does. But yet they're not at the table. They're not seem to be really moving head and earth here to try and get this solved. Your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, India is very active. And in fact, there are conversations happening between New Delhi and Tehran at the highest level, practically on daily basis. And to the best of information we have, Russia is very active. And to some extent, so is China. The only difference is when you are as big as India, you don't need to necessarily be on the front page. These things are best, conducted behind the scene. And that's precisely what's happening. Russia is doing it, and India and Russia are coordinating a lot on this. We don't want this war to continue. Because we have a lot at stake, not only, 10 million Indians, but our economies are quite integrated. Our
I
economy
mean, a lot of people say Russia would like it to continue. They seem to be winning. It's, I don't know.
well, our sense is that the biggest beneficiary so far is China, but
Why would that be?
geopolitically, well, geopolitically, because if it means that the U.S. grows very weak and the trust of GCC countries, goes southward on the United States, then India would be a beneficiary, China would be a beneficiary, and Russia would be a beneficiary, because these countries will have to reach out to in order to build a new security infrastructure and architecture. They would need to reach out to countries like India, China, and Russia. Who else? You see, if the US kind of grows weak, not that the US is going to disappear completely. However, the point that Sarah made, I have to say that when we talk of Iran, United States, don't forget Israel and what they think about the region. They want, even the US supports the idea of a greater Israel. But if there is a ceasefire, what you're going to get is a greater Israel as well as greater Iran. Would East GCC countries be comfortable with that? You have a tiger on the left side and another tiger on the right side, and you're squeezed with so much of wealth, the oil and gas and everything. So I think there are no easy. So when President Trump says, or some people, analysts say that, look, GCC countries, not they want it, but they seem that if you leave Iran, such an important country, so wounded, it's like leaving a big tiger wounded in the jungle. Then imagine, the kind of cost you might have to pay tomorrow. So it's a very complex scenario. I can
Can the
understand.
Security Council deliver anything today, do you think?
You see, the United Nations is dead. It's just an organization kind of which is there, and it's in some
It's
areas
maybe
they
dead as a security vehicle, but it's still delivering critical aid to
well, it's
UNICEF and
when I say
World Food
United Nations.
Program and
United Nations, my friend, I say dead because it does not represent the world. Look at the construct of the Security Council. Out of five permanent members, three are Europeans. Look at the size of the economy, much smaller than India. They are there. India is not. Entire Africa is not. Entire Latin America is not. So I think so. That's why, and Security Council is the heart of the United Nations. If the heart is so weak, you can very well conclude how the body looks like. So that's what I say is practically dead. It's still there. We know that there is a building. We also contribute heavily to its
there
survival.
is a building with meeting rooms in it. Narendra, talk to us like where the 4%, the 4 out of 10 hope that you mentioned, 6 out of 10. We go across. Do you expect a deal by tonight? Oh my God, 8 out of 10 saying no. That's makes me very upset. The why is India and Russia, and if China are involved as well, having very little impact on shaping the outcome here? If we're only at 4 out of 10 at the moment, or 8 out of 10 according to the group of this room, why is there not greater impact from all of those other big countries to sort of get to a resolution here?
Well, I think it's simple. You see, countries like India, and I guess the same goes for China and to some extent Russia, they're involved behind the scene because it's impacting their economy. And at the same time, with regard to China, they've invested heavily in the region, most particularly in Iran. So for them, kind of status quo would have been the best thing. Their influence was growing. India's influence was growing, and very peacefully over the years, as we all know. So that was fine. It would have taken another 10 years. Both India and China would have been far more influential in the region than ever before, and probably therefore geopolitically more important players and actors in that region. But then Israel and the United States did what they have done. I don't think it has been thought through very carefully. Probably it has been thought through only in one country, that's Israel, and the US find itself trapped. I'm saying 40 chance basically because I think President Trump is very nervous. He's very edgy, and I think his instinct is not to go ahead because he knows the consequences, both for American economy and the global economy, but also for America's interest in that region particularly, and the kind of trigger it would be for a massive geopolitical change in not only that region but the entire world. What we are witnessing in the Gulf right now is Wild West, or what we call in India the Jungle Raj. The jungle Raj with so much of wealth and such huge importance in the region for the global economy. I mean, the world can't afford it. Therefore, India wants to see stability there. We don't want to see winners and losers. We are more interested in some kind of stability, like what Sarah said. Ideally, we would like to see that, but we know at the same time, Sarah has wonderful ideas, but we know the world out is much more cruel. And that's not how people like President Trump or Israel, Netanyahu, they think. They have a different interest altogether. Therefore, I said 40, but at the same time, if you look at the profile of those involved in the negotiation, the profile is rather weak. They're not
When you
very
say
powerful.
the people, the actual people involved, like,
No, not the people, the countries involved.
oh, the countries.
Yeah, is very weak. Like Indian foreign minister had a long discussion only last night with the Iranian foreign minister. And they have been discussing, how to basically move forward. And you can understand India has very close ties with the United States, strategic ties. We don't talk much about it, but everybody knows it's so heavily institutionalized. And my sense is that if you look at India, we would like to have even deeper strategic ties with United Arab Emirates, with Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and and also with Israel. So those kind of new architecture are going to emerge very soon, and these architectures have been taking shape in terms of India Middle East economic corridor and so on and so forth. So therefore, I think India is not going to talk loudly about it unless we are sure that we can actually produce results. But we know the kind of trap that America is into. They want to get out of it, but now it's a little bit too late. What they did last 24 hours in terms of sending those so many planes and head choppers and all that, it was not, my sense, it was not only about rescuing one airman. It was something more. So the question is that, if that is the kind of engagement, and if you saw the press conference last night, and especially the language used by the director of CIA, I mean, he was talking more to please his president than probably anything else. So in that kind of scenario, it's very, very difficult. One thing we know for sure, President Trump would not like a kind of a narrative, which is a perception that America has lost the war. If America has not won, Iran has won. As simple as that.